Welcome to this edition of Morgan Asked For podcast. Wednesday night, August 14th, about 9 o'clock. Getting that much closer to football. We're 2 weeks and 3 days away from Iowa State playing, and then it's full go from there. Trev's is back with us again, so back-to-back weeks, and I think we got it worked out for next week. So we should be good to go all the way leading up to football for us to work out to do the podcast here. Several different things here. A little bit, Trevor brought this to my attention, but being a local hero here, I'm going to say that. Oskaloosa, athlete, Hawkeye football legend. Tyler Sash has a documentary coming out here, and we just looked it up. Trevor just did the 27th, so just over 10 days, about 10 days away here. I had no idea this was coming up. Trev sent me it, and I'll let Trev talk. He was friends with Tyler, and obviously being in Oskaloosa at that time. I was not in Oskaloosa. I was at Eddyville when he was in high school and everything, and then I went to Ottumwa. I was living in Pella at the time of this was all going on when he was in high school, and obviously I moved here and everything and followed his career and everything. Trev, I'll let you kind of turn the floor over to you about this Tyler Sash documentary.
Well, first, like we were talking before we got started, I had no idea this was even being made. I know I talked to Steven Staggs. He had no idea. I don't think a lot of people did. It just randomly popped up on my YouTube, and I clicked to watch it, and I definitely wasn't expecting it. It hit home pretty hard with that. When Tyler did die, ESPN did a special shortly after they did the test on his brain. And, a lot of this stuff I wouldn't have talked about on here before, but since the family's doing this, I think it's okay to talk about some of these things now finally. But yeah, definitely wasn't expecting it. And like I said, I think the family kept this pretty under wraps until now. Now the trailer's out, comes out the 27th. So definitely going to be interested to watch it.
And there's big names in this. It is called Concussed, right? Is that the name of it, or at least that's what I saw of it? Correct?
Concussion, the American Dream.
Yeah. And, I was a little bit confused. When you sent it to me, I was a little confused by it because that's Brett Favre's picture with it. It's not Tyler's picture. So I was like, but you're a Brett Favre fan too, so it didn't completely surprise me that it was you sent me that. With knowing that you're a Brett Favre fan, but and the American Dream is true. He was a great athlete, not just in football. I would say his love was basketball. When I was at Eddyville Blacksburg, we went against Oskaloosa, and he was an unbelievable basketball player. And I think, and basketball's kind of, his brother's a Division I basketball coach at Drake now. Just been at Indian Hills a few times. But being 6 foot tall and a guard, his way to make money would have been in football, and he realized that. And another local guy, Brandon Myers from PCM, was that same boat, and right about the same time, and they both went to Iowa and played football. Both end up playing for the Giants. I mean, it was kind of just both of them understood where if they wanted to make money playing sports, which every kid that plays sports, that's their dream. You ask every kid in high school, you ask every kid in college, what do they want to do? They want to go to the NFL or Major League Baseball or the NBA or whatever sport you're doing, you want to play it professionally. And they understood, and I want to give both their families credit, understanding that they did it. Playing football was their ticket out. Now, they both would have got scholarships and been able to play college basketball. And I believe Tyler Sash actually at Iowa State was offered to do both. From what I was told or heard, they were going to let him try both. Now, realistically, it would not have worked. but that was their recruiting pitch to try to get Tyler to come to Iowa State. Was they were going to let him try both.
Yeah, definitely basketball was his first love, as you mentioned, only being 5'11", 6 foot. He definitely could have played basketball in college, but making it to the NBA, it would have been obviously extremely difficult. Choosing the right path there, at least looking back in the day before they knew the trauma that would come, it was the right call because he had a great success career at Iowa, played a couple years for the Giants, got to win a Super Bowl ring, got to do a lot of amazing things. Um, the thing I remember looking back on is when I worked at the golf course at Oski Golf with Doug DeCock, worked in the pro shop most every day. And when Tyler was back, he bought a membership. And looking back on it now, it makes so much sense. But back then, I just thought he was really forgetful. He would come in and he would buy Gatorade and go back out to his golf cart and come back in and buy a bag of teas, go back out to his golf cart, come back in and buy a ball marker. And that was pretty regular. And, looking back on it now, all the warning signs, I guess, were there that, he was a little bit different. His mom spoke about that. So I feel comfortable saying that now that it's out there, but it definitely makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I met Tyler a handful of times in my life. I don't know Tyler. When he did, get done with football and move back here, you saw him around town. Not a lot. I didn't play golf out there very much, but you did see him. I knew his dad more, being the PE teacher in Oskaloosa here forever and ever. Um, just spent time doing things and seeing him at different places. And again, didn't know him well, but knew him more as just a colleague, as a PE teacher here locally.
Yeah, everybody knows Mike Sash. Anybody that went to Oski, we all had him as a PE teacher. And me and Cody have always talked about that's probably the best PE teacher we ever had. He always set up all these cool little tournaments and games. His dad, Mike, would keep stats of like wiffle ball that we played in the gym, have standings. So you actually you got to feel a little bit like a pro when you were a kid. So that was a lot of fun. And then, of course, Tyler came back. He ran the Tyler Sash tournament there at Oski Golf for a couple of years. Got to help with that, which was pretty fun. But yeah, as you mentioned, Brett Favre was in it. I didn't know what I was watching at first either when I clicked on it, and I wasn't expecting Brett Favre to talk about Tyler at the end. So he obviously knows the story, and I'm guessing was in talks with the family.
I would assume so. Um, obviously his mom was in it. I'm assuming his brother is in it. They've both been on ESPN and talking about how if they had to do it again, they wouldn't have let him play football. That's what I wanted to talk about. And you knew Tyler the best out of us two and knew him really well. You grew up with him. Were you in the same class with him or 1 year different?
1 year below.
1 year below. I couldn't remember if you were the same or just 1 year below. But you were friends with him and grew up with him and knew him well. And, as someone that never had that ability, and Trev, you can say that too, would you give up a lot of things to do what he was able to do in sports? I probably would. And they know what they're getting into. Now, obviously, unfortunately, his ending was much quicker than most. And I'm going to say more tragic than most. But he lived a dream. He got paid to play sports. And a lot of people give up a lot of things to do that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Brett Favre said that in the video. He don't know if he would change a thing. And of course, you'd expect those guys that played 10, 15, 20 years that this would happen to, not
Right.
someone that only played 2 years in the NFL. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, looking back when this was all happening, when he was going to Iowa, when he was in the NFL, it was extremely exciting. You could have never seen, well, at least back then, you could have never seen this coming. As far as yeah, I mean, it'd be tough to say no to get to be a star to, a big time football program, to get to play in the pros, win a Super Bowl ring. It would definitely be, that part would be worth it. But then to have your life cut short at that age, it's tough. And that's why a lot of parents have a tough decision to make nowadays. at what age do they let their kids play football and what age do they let them play tackle football. I think that's the big thing now going on. You can speak more to that, knowing that the kind of the junior high and the high school football aspect of it.
Yeah, just I would say football is as safe as it's ever been, almost to the detriment of the game. In my opinion, that's just you look at the NFL kickoff rules. It's almost hard to watch, but it's because of these situations that's happened. The NFL they can't hit at practice, and everybody says why can't anybody tackle us because they don't practice it anymore. High schools, I cannot speak to what college is now, but they don't practice 2-3 times a day in pads like we used to. I know that. I don't know what the rules are for college, but it's just not realistic to do anymore. And in college, there's only so many hours you can hit a week. Uh, Everybody's understood now. The safety equipment's better. You see those helmet guardians that people put on top. It's not a perfect thing. It just helps. And that is why a lot of linemen have issues and everything is the repeated hits. Now, Tyler wasn't a lineman, but he got, like his hit that, Tyler won a Super Bowl, but unfortunately he was not able to play in the Super Bowl, correct? Because he got taken out in the championship game, correct?
He dressed for the game. He dressed for the Super Bowl game. But yeah, that hit in the NFC Championship game was one of the most brutal you'll see.
Right. And there's no part. I mean, you can legislate everything. There's no part of that hit in the game. Used to be much more. Now it has been taken out. Much like I think it was Kurt Warner got one of those hits. Just turn back and just take someone out when they're not even looking. But football is as safe as it's ever been. It's not 100% safe. Nothing is. I always use the comparison, and yes, could something bad happen to your son or daughter playing football? Absolutely. But they also can get hurt doing anything else. And I always use the car analogy. Your son or daughter is way more likely to get in a car wreck and get hurt or killed than getting hurt or, something happened to them in football. But you're not going to let them, you're going to not let them drive. Everybody lets their kids drive. So I understand every family has to make that decision. And I'm on the opposite side. My son doesn't want to play football, and I would like him to. So I've never had that decision truly to make. He likes soccer and stuff, and next year he'll be in 7th grade. I already had a conversation. Go out to be a kicker, and then secretly I kind of hope the coach makes him do a little things, and maybe he'll like it or whatever. My son likes football. We go to every Iowa State game. He watches it on TV. He plays, football in his video games. We started soccer when he was 3 or 4, and he's really like that. And it's hard. It's pretty much impossible to do those two sports. I'm not going to say you couldn't do it, but those two sports do not click at all with time and everything.
Yeah, every family's got a tough decision to make. There's no right or wrong answer. You talk about the guardian pads that a lot of players are wearing, especially the linemen. A little bit of a misconception is, and I know what you mean by it because the game has definitely changed, but people like to say, nobody hits anymore, nobody gets tackled in games. I'm talking.
Right.
Well, players still get tackled. They still get hit hard. There's just more penalties called. Quarterbacks right. Still get thrown to the ground occasionally. It's not as bad as it used to, as you mentioned, but there still are hits that take place. And yeah, it's just a tough decision. What age, like I said, if your kid wants to play football, tackle football, at what age do you allow it? And I think that's really more of a struggle now too. I don't have kids, but I don't know what the right or wrong answer is.
There isn't one. There isn't a right answer. It's if if the kid wants to try it, let him try it. That's the only thing is, a kid wants to play, and a family just doesn't let them. And I would say that for every sport. I don't care if it's soccer, basketball, whatever. That's hard as a coach and a teacher when a kid comes up to you and wants to play. Hey, mom won't let me play, or dad won't let me play, or whoever. That's hard because you can see it in their face that they want to try it. They may not end up playing. But let them try it. If they like it, they like it. They don't, they don't. Um, and I would say that for every sport. And that's, my daughter's perfect. She's done swimming. She's done cheerleading. We did t-ball when she was younger. Trying to think what else. She's tried about everything, and it's music and stuff is kind of more her thing, and it's still not her favorite thing, but that's what she's going back to choir this year as her extracurricular, and that's good. But you just try it, and you hope they find something. And everybody needs to do something, belong to something, belong to a team, and that's a great part of growing up and learning how to deal with different types of people, is being part of sport or teams or groups or activities. And as a teacher and coach, it doesn't matter what you belong to, but belong to something outside of just your regular school friends. If it's the chess team or the debate team, doesn't matter what it is, be part of something. And that's, that's what I don't want to see. That aspect is hard for me when someone wants to be part of something and then they're not allowed.
Yeah, that's the great thing about sports. Most of my friends that I met at a young age is because I played football. That's how I met them. Or I went and watched them play basketball. I didn't play, but I'd go back in like seventh and eighth grade. I'd go watch our classmates practice after school. I just wasn't a basketball guy. I kind of wish I would have been, but yeah, you're right. That's how you meet a lot of your friends. And speaking specifically of football, the hits are the bad part. The lifelong friendships you make are the good part. And like I said, there's no right answer here on what to do. It's just every parent's got a different decision to make.
Yeah, I mean, and you think, the Sash family is doing very much the same type of thing as someone that, we've all seen it, where, you know, gets, a car wreck where, two or three kids get hit by a drunk driver and unfortunately lose their life, or maybe they were the ones drinking and then wrecked their car or whatever. And that those families try to raise awareness and everything. The Sash family is doing the exact same thing for what happened to their kid. And I respect them, and they are doing what is right. You want to give all the facts, you want to present what happened to you. So if it does help one person or one family make the best decision for them, it does. And that's all you can ask for.
No, that's exactly right. You got to put yourself in their shoes and think about that, just as you said. So, yeah, it was definitely pretty emotional watching it. Didn't expect it. Like I said, I don't think a lot of people did, but it does come out the 27th. So, definitely gonna be interested to check it out.
All right. I think we can move on there, but that was a good local topic. And it's just a tough discussion because we both said there's not a right or wrong answer. Let's move into the WNBA basketball. Will be starting tomorrow, I believe. Is that
There's
correct?
games tonight, but the Indiana
Games.
Fever are back tomorrow night.
Okay. Going back to the Olympics, they did win a gold medal. They did not lose a game. I'll be honest, I didn't watch any of the games. And as we've talked, and about everybody I talked to that I know would have watched almost every second if one person was on that team. And I do want to give Coach Don Staley credit. They interviewed her really before they started playing, or maybe after their first game, and she was asked if Caitlin Clark should be on that team. And she said that if the decision on the team was made a month later, she probably would have been on the team. Which gets me thinking that team was decided before Caitlin Clark was even in the WNBA. That team was essentially decided this spring. didn't even give Caitlin Clark or any of the rookies a chance to be on that team. They didn't think they'd be ready. But with Angel Reese, what she's doing in the WNBA and what Caitlin Clark is doing in the WNBA, I do think, looking back, USA Basketball did make a mistake, and I think they know it. And Dawn Staley, I want to give her credit for saying she didn't come out and say she would have been on the team, but she goes, she's played really well, and she would have had a much greater chance of being on the team if it would have been a few weeks later.
Yeah, I saw that interview. That was good of her to admit that. Finally someone in the, the big club, if you want to call it, finally came out and said it. And I've heard a lot of people say this too. A lot of these veterans didn't think Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese were going to be ready for the WNBA, and it's actually the other way around. The WNBA wasn't ready for Reese and Clark because they're coming in and breaking records as rookies. They put a stat up today, and I haven't fact checked all of it, but they said every event at the Olympics was up in ratings except for women's basketball for the final. It stayed at like 7.8 million. So it was the only sport or event that didn't increase ratings from the last Olympics. And I don't know what it would have got if Clark and Reese were on the end of the bench, maybe play a couple minutes, but I'm sure that 7.8 million number would be 12, 15. I don't know. I think that's a safe bet.
Oh, yeah. And to say, and you heard right when this happened, why put on a team if she's not going to play? Well, Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton on the men's side hardly played. And, I think Tatum necessarily wasn't super happy. He just got paid the most money ever in the WNBA or in the NBA and is a first team All NBA player and just won a world championship. So I think he maybe wasn't super happy. But Halliburton had the quote in the tweet or whatever of the whole Olympics, holding up his gold medal, and group project got an A and I didn't do anything. It was great. He was just so happy, and I would bet a lot of money that he learned so much. And everybody's like, well, he should have played more just because he was on the team. Well, who are you going to take out? Are you going to sit Kevin Durant or are you going to sit Steph Curry? No. Most NBA teams or most basketball teams play 7, 8, 9 guys. So there's 2, 3 that just aren't going to play, and it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And I saw that Halliburton post. That was hilarious. And there's a good chance he plays a lot the next Olympics. And I even think, I thought I heard he was dealing with a little bit of, maybe been dealing with a little bit of an injury
right
for this Olympics. So yeah, that made sense that he didn't come off. Yeah, it's kind of weird. And, they've probably got about 10 days here. I'll be interested what the ratings are going to be before football really gets started up. And I was trying to think of, what the WNBA could do next season or in future seasons. And I think once they get to mid-August through September and their playoff schedule, whatever that will be, now that they won't have an Olympic year, I think they got to try to schedule as many big games as they can on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Because we know Monday is Monday Night Football, Thursday's Thursday night, Friday's going to be high school football, Saturday's college, and Sunday's NFL. So I think Friday, those are the 2 days that –
and college and the NFL are starting to infringe on Fridays. I'm pretty sure that first weekend, the NFL goes Thursday night, then Friday night is Tampa or Green Bay and Philadelphia in Brazil, and then they won't play Saturday, but then they'll play Sunday. And college football just straight up, they're playing on Fridays now. The Big Ten's playing on Fridays. Iowa plays UCLA on a Friday, and they played Minnesota on a Friday before. Friday nights are big time football now, and I don't like that either because I think it should be high school football. But you got to look at it this way: all these conferences are getting bigger, bigger, and bigger, and these TV networks are paying all kinds of money. They can't have games on at the same time. So they need, they got games going from here in Iowa from 11 a.m. to midnight in round numbers, or maybe at least 10:30. So there's 12 hours. But if you can get one more time segment where play at 6:30, 7 o'clock on a Friday, That's one more big game that you can guarantee to be in prime time on your NBC or on your Fox or whatever one, and maybe that is an FS1 game or whatever, if those Fox affiliates don't want it on a Friday night. But that's one more guaranteed single you can promote. Hey, that's just you, or it's just you in one other game, instead of Saturday at 2:30 where there's 50 games in college football.
Yeah, you get more of those standalone games, as you said. That the TV networks are going to push a lot for that, which I agree. Friday should be high school football night. I still believe that. Um, if college wanted to do some stuff on Thursdays, which they've done in the past, I don't really have a problem with that at all. And even on Mondays, you're just competing with the NFL. So, take your chances all you want. But I do think Tuesdays and Wednesdays later in the WNBA season are the 2 days that they're going to have to focus on to get as many of the big games that they can. Now, that's going to be easier said than done because you've got to play in the arenas, the schedule. What if there's concerts going on, other activities? So I would just think if they can get as many big games on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, that's kind of going to be their opening.
And then just play your regular games on Saturdays or whatever. But yeah, and you got to think, the NFL is just king, because growing up when we were younger, Thursday night college football was big time. Virginia Tech played a lot on Thursdays. I just remember, you'd watch Enter Sandman at 7:00 on a Thursday night. There were big games. Once the NFL stepped in, college football just said, we're out. There's still games, but there's no big games on Thursdays. Yeah.
Even if you get a crappy NFL game like the Panthers versus, the Patriots, it's still going to probably outdraw any college game or most of them.
Yeah. So it's just, the NFL, whatever the NFL wants to do, they'll do. But yeah, so the WNBA, go off and I want you to read those records that the Fever released today that Caitlin Clark has so far.
Well, these are actually like Caitlin. It's the team total, but it's the Caitlin Clark effect. Keith Murphy posted this, and it's just their attendance is up 264%. Their jersey sales are up 1,193%. Hot dogs are up 300%. Beer sales up 740%, and the Indiana Fever social media accounts have had more views than any NFL, NHL, or MLB team in the last 4 years.
And that all adds up to one thing: money. She is making the Indiana Fever money.
And the one most important one here at the end, what you're getting to, they're up 225% in new sponsors, or in sponsorship total, I should say.
Right. It's all about money. And I do think the WNBA old guard is what I'm going to call them. They have finally figured it out. It took them half a year, but they figured it out. And I don't know if they still like it, but at least they're starting to understand what's happening. She is making them.
Yeah, when you're staying in better hotels and better flights, and eventually more pay and more exposure and better facilities, eventually you'll get over it, I would assume.
It's 300% in hot dogs. Well, that's concessions and parking and seats. If you're going, did they play Gamebridge before, or have they always played at the big arena, or do you know that?
I think it's been a mix. I'd have to go back and look. I think it's been a mix, especially on the road games. They played in a lot of big arenas.
Right. But their home games, they were, for the schedule this year, it was always in Gamebridge Arena. So, but I don't know going back if it was always there or not.
I'm not sure if it was either. I don't know enough history to know that. But yeah, just some interesting numbers that really show the effect. Mostly, that's new Caitlin Clark fans, but Aaliyah Boston's got a lot of fans as well, and just the WNBA is gaining a lot of new fans in general.
That's social media thing's crazy to me. But you think about who our fans are. They're young, girls her age, and not even just girls, but a lot of girls her age or younger, that's all they're on is social media. They do everything through social media. most high school kids, they don't even use text message. They text through like Snapchat or other apps. They don't use like the text feature on their phones, which is crazy.
Yeah, no, it's like you said, it's a lot of fans that are around your age or younger. I told you that a lot of people have said this too, the Taylor Swift effect. But yeah, the social media one, that was probably the most surprising. More views than, like I said, any NFL, NHL, or MLB social media team in the last 4 years. So definitely, the proof is in the numbers.
So, do you have the standings up for the WNBA right now? I do not.
I can in 1 second. Last I remember, I think the Fever were in seventh, but I can tell you here in just a second.
Yeah, and the top 8 go, so they're not even in the last playoff spot.
So they're in seventh, and then Chicago is eighth. So that would help if they could both get in. But yeah, Indiana's sitting in that seventh spot right now, and that, like we talked about it, the first half of their season they played really bad, and then the last whatever 12, 13 games they played a lot better. So I told you I expect her 3-point shot to come back. I think the rest and some vacation and getting some time off will help, but we'll see if that comes true or not.
And just Caitlin Clark in general, she's came back to Iowa. She donated a bunch of things to Des Moines Public Schools. I think she was at North High School, but I think it was all Des Moines Public Schools, and that's a great thing for her to do. She's from West Des Moines. She went to Dowling. Those kids don't need that support, as much support. There are kids in that town and at Dowling that need support too. Every school has those, but the percentage of kids that need it aren't near as high as Des Moines Public Schools. So for her going to North High School and helping out, the Des Moines market, not where she grew up, not where she went to high school, but Des Moines in general, just shows what kind of person she is. And we've talked about this, whether it's her family or her or whoever they've hired, her family and her have hired, just keep hitting a home run on everything she does. They understand what to do and how to do it and how to make her as marketable and look as good as she can.
Yeah, that was definitely a great thing that she did. She, as you mentioned, she continues to say the right things, do the right things. I haven't seen the video yet. I was going to look for it here later, but sounds like she was at a Yankees game. They asked her a question about the Olympics. She gave a perfect answer. It gives me something to work for 4 years from now in LA. And then I heard a lot of the Yankee players were kind of starstruck to see her taking pictures or stuff. But like I said, I haven't seen the video yet.
And that shows how big a star she is. That Aaron Judge, Aaron Boone wanted to talk to her and wanted a picture with her. It wasn't like, who are you? What are you doing? It was everybody knew. And that's not just, I don't think she calls the Yankees and say, I want to come do this. I don't think that happens. The Yankees do it to help them too. And it's an agreement. Hey, do you want to come? Because I'm not 100% sure, but maybe she's a Yankee fan. I don't know. When you're in Iowa, you can kind of be anything because there's not just a true local team. So yeah, and then Kate Martin, she's thrown out pitches at Kansas City, and I think maybe Chicago, and she's from the St. Louis area, I believe. So might have lost Trevor here. Trev, are you still there or no? I think Trev's frozen. So, all right, we'll just keep going here, but just I want to touch on the Olympics here just a little bit. I watched a lot of the Olympics. I'm not going to say I watched everything all the time. And everything I've heard, everything I've seen, everything I've read, the Olympics were just so much more exciting, and everybody tuned in, and they were way more fun for everybody and everyone involved, because they were able to have fans. And with it being in Europe instead of Asia, where the time change isn't near as much, kind of nice. And I think I talked about this in one of the previous podcasts, but at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, if I wasn't working, I was able to watch it live. And then I was able to watch it later at 7, 8, 9 o'clock on the prime time. But I was able to watch um, um, watch it live, and then able to watch it again. And then just being able to have um, people, the athletes' families and supporters and people able to watch. And then you didn't have to wear a mask. And I feel sorry for Tokyo, because it wasn't their fault. It was supposed to happen in 2020. Got moved to 2021, but they still had, COVID restrictions, and the perfect example is Noah Lyles got COVID in Paris, was still able to run, and not he didn't get kicked out of the Olympics or anything. He was still able to run, let alone just not being physically able to. But he was allowed to run, and because the COVID isn't as near a thing as it was in 2020, 2021. But yeah, just, craziness. It's so fast. What I find amazing about the Olympics, you spend 10, 11, 12 days, whatever it is, all in, then all of a sudden it's over. And a lot of those sports we won't even think about again until 4 years from now. Trevor, are you back?
I think so. I'm glad you kept it going. I'm pretty sure it's my internet. They're doing a ton of construction out where I live. I live in eastern Colorado Springs, and that's where everything's being built right now. So the last month or so, my internet's been really hit or miss. So good job keeping it going. I don't know what you said, but I know a couple minutes there I lost you.
We kind of just I went on with the Olympics and how you're all in on the Olympics for 10, 11 days. You watch, the popular sports, you watch the not popular sports, and you get all in. You're cheering for USA and everything, and then all of a sudden it's over. And then just how much better this Olympics was, with being able to interact with people and seeing the families there and their friends there and their supporters. And then the time difference was, only 6, 7 hours. So you're able to watch, if you're home or whatever in the middle of the day at 1, 2 o'clock, you could watch Simone Biles do her routines instead of just finding out on your phone. You wake up in the middle of the night or at 6 a.m. in the morning to go to work, and now it's on your phone. Could have happened in the middle of the night like it was in Asia. And I kind of feel sorry for Tokyo, because it really wasn't all their fault. I mean, obviously the time and everything you can't control, but supposed to happen in 2020 didn't happen. It did happen in 2021, but still had tons of restrictions. Not really their fault, but so much better here in Paris. And then looking forward to 4 years here in the U.S. in LA.
Absolutely, yeah. There's nothing they can do about the time difference, and still the effects of COVID that were going on. But yeah, this Olympics was awesome. I watched way more than I thought I would, as I told you last episode, and definitely really looking forward to them in LA. I would love to go and see a couple events, maybe go to a women's basketball game, but I have a feeling those tickets are going to be pretty pricey, so I don't know if that's going to be possible.
I agree. I've never been to LA or anything. It'd be kind of cool to go, but it's it's going to be pretty pricey. I would expect, and probably not in the cards, but it would be fun to watch. All right, kind of finish up here with just a little bit of NFL talk, just preseason stuff. Kind of the number one story today, it was yesterday. JJ McCarthy meniscus surgery. Don't know exactly how long he's going to be out, but he's going to be out for a little bit here. Top 10 pick. I think Sam Darnold is probably going to start game one anyway. But now, essentially, I would say Sam Darnold is a starter all year for Minnesota. So the J.J. McCarthy will have to wait a year, I believe, for the Vikings.
Yeah, they came out a little bit ago and said he's out 4 to 6 months, most likely now. So it's a full-on surgery, which is unfortunate for him. He looked pretty good in the one preseason game. Again, it's preseason, but like I always say, I'd rather the players look good than bad in a preseason game. So you're right. He was probably going to sit to at least start the season, if not the whole year. For the coaching staff and for Sam Darnold now, what this does is takes a lot of pressure off any quarterback controversy if they start out slow. If J.J. McCarthy would have been healthy and they start, 1-3, ownership is probably going to push for McCarthy to start even if he's not ready. So now that kind of takes that out of play. And I think he's only 21 or 22. So him missing this year is not the end of the world. And it sounds like him getting this full-on surgery rather than the half surgery long-term is the way to go.
I was going to bring that up. It was a partial tear. They could do some things where he's only out 1 or 2 months. With his age and his outlook on his career, I think you have to go. The smart play was just to go do it all, miss this year, and then move on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the long play. If he was, 39 years old and this is going to be his last season, then I could understand maybe taking the half measure. But definitely the right call. There's been some other stuff going on. I think I wrote down to you, talk about the Jets a little bit. They traded, they made that trade, and I don't know what you expect when a player wants a new contract from the other team and you don't give it to him. That's just the Jets being the Jets. Look at the Steelers and the 49ers right now. It sounds like the Steelers, they have a deal in place. They have a contract offer to Brandon Ayuk, which you should do if you're going to trade for a disgruntled player. That just is common sense to me. That's what the good organizations do. And, for Brandon Ayuk, he just got to decide, does he want to make a little bit more money and live in Pittsburgh and not know exactly who his quarterback's going to be, or does he want to make a little less money and stay with the 49ers where you have a real shot to win a Super Bowl?
And that's straight up just his decision he has to make, and we'll see what decision he makes. Is there a timeline on that? Does he have to decide any time, or is it just up to the trade deadline essentially?
As far as I know, it's up to the trade deadline unless the Steelers were to revoke their offer, I suppose, which they could do. But I think as long as he makes a decision by the trade deadline, they could still maybe try to get something done. But the longer this drags out, the more I think he's going to stay with the 49ers. But I don't know for sure what's going to happen. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, it's what you can't fault anybody for trying to get the most money they can, because this is a short window in your life, and you can set your family up for a long, long time on just 1 or 2 of these contracts. But it'd be really hard to leave the 49ers right now because they're as good as they are in the NFL. It's not a guaranteed win in the Super Bowl, but they got as good a chance as anybody.
No, that's exactly right. They're the favorite, probably along with the Lions in the NFC, as they should be. And getting back to Hassan Reddick, now he's come out and requested another trade. And that's what happens when you trade for a guy that wants a new contract and don't get something done right away. And I can't think of any time in NFL history where somebody's traded for a player and then he requests another trade before the season starts,
right,
and a deal isn't done. It's the Jets being the Jets. I don't think it's Robert Sala's fault. It's probably got to be Woody Johnson or the GM. My guess is Woody Johnson probably agreed that, yeah, we'll give him a good deal when he gets here. And then Woody probably went back on his word. That's just what the Jets do. That's why they've been terrible most of our lives. But yeah, definitely, it's always something with the Jets. Rodgers is going on all these different shows. They're definitely good at staying in the news, though.
Yeah, and they're in New York, so they're always in the news just in general. And they just, good or bad, they're always in the news, and famous or infamous, it doesn't matter.
No, that's exactly right. And then the last thing for NFL was the story that came out about Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, the broken relationship that they have, or basically no relationship. Eagles before last season lost both of their coordinators. And a lot of people are wondering what Nick Sirianni really does. He's not an OC, he's not a DC, and that story was pretty bad. I think I told you that my guess was probably the Eagles or the Cowboys. One of them missed the playoffs this season. And with this coming out, this is really the type of thing. If you go on a 2-game losing streak and lose the locker room, I think this could derail their season. He was already on the hot seat after the playoffs last year. They had to have a meeting with him. They were looking at Belichick. And speaking of Belichick, I think there's a pretty good chance he's going to be coaching one of 3 NFC East teams next season, either the Cowboys, the Eagles, or the Giants. I think for sure one of those coaches is either getting fired or not re-upped on a deal.
Go back to where it started with the Giants, or 2 teams that are much closer to winning. Obviously the Eagles been to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl, both relatively recent. Then the Cowboys have all the resources, and just for whatever reason, it doesn't get done.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Go back to New York where it started, or maybe go to the Eagles where you have a legit quarterback. The Cowboys where you have a legit quarterback if they re-sign Dak. I have my problems with them in the playoffs, but definitely better than Daniel Jones. So my prediction is Belichick's coaching one of those 3 teams next year.
Would not surprise. I would be shocked if he's not coaching in the NFL next year. I really would.
I think there'll be a team that gives them, usually like 5 or 6 coaches get fired every year. So I think there's going to be a team that'll give them a shot, even if they know it's only for 3-4 years. If you can help get the franchise turned around, it'd probably be worth it.
Do you think he got offered a job this year and turned it down, or just never really got offered it because it just didn't quite work out?
From everything I heard, the Falcons were the closest to offering him, but somebody in Arthur Blank's corner advised against it. I think Arthur Blank wanted to hire him to be their coach, and maybe some people in his corner that now that he's getting older, that he's trusting to make some decisions, told him no. But there was also rumors too that Belichick was maybe in talk with the Eagles.
So, and he would have relationships with most of the owners in the NFL anyway, being a head coach for 20 some years. There's owner head coaches meetings every year. He would have a relationship with every one of those owners for several different reasons. One, those owners have probably called him to hire people. Almost every team in the NFL has hired somebody off of Belichick's tree. And obviously they're going to call Belichick to see, hey, is this the guy? What do you think of him? Whatever. So he's going to have a relationship with every owner in the NFL, I would expect. Just in that scenario right there. It was never for him to get hired until last year, but it was always trying to hire the next him from his tree.
Yeah, he's got to have as many connections as anybody at this point, as long as he's been in the league. I think it'll really come down to, does he want to get back into it at his age? He's got the girlfriend, that we've seen go viral on social media. He's doing a bunch of stuff on Pat McAfee, probably going to be on College Game Day. So I think it'll really come down, I guess, does he want to at his age?
Right. Absolutely. All right. Anything else, Trev? I think that's probably pretty good we went really long last week. We maybe go a little shorter here this week. I think next week will be our college football picks. We'll win-loss Iowa State. We'll pick Big 10 champ, Big 12 champ, and then we'll do our best to pick the 12-team playoffs. So tune in next week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Please listen. Tell your friends, family, and listen to whatever podcast player you do. We're on most of them. So anything else, Trev?
Nope. That's it. That's what we'll do next week. And thanks, everybody, for listening, and have a good night.
All right. Talk to everybody later.